Hey, this is Dr. C again. Today we're going to start a whole series. Now, these are things that are important now for every elder person, every senior. I want you to know all about the end-of-life issues. Now, I've given this talk several years ago at churches and places like that, and have expanded, have kept up on all of the things, and have expanded this now so that it's practically the size of a small book on all the important things that you need to know at the end of life. Not just the financial stuff, because that's what the estate planners, financial, that's it. That's their expertise. They don't know squat about all of the other stuff that the elder have to go through, because they're not elders, most of them. They're young guys or young women. And unless you've been through it or going through it, you don't know. So we're going to deal with every issue that the elder people have to deal with at the end of life. Okay, so this is the first part. And I still offer this entire series up for organizations that want to put up with my talk. I'll give you a lot of information. All you have to do is contact the studio. I'd be happy to come and talk to your group about exactly what we're going to begin to discuss today. So, without further ado, we're going to start talking about your estate. That's topic number one. Now, when I first started giving this talk and all, I just simply said, well, the estate is everything you own, which basically, in common sense terms, is actually correct. But you're now dealing with federal and state government, and they're trying to get as much money out of you as possible. Unbelievable what they've done just with a simple word like, what is your estate? Let me go over what the federal definition of your estate is. Oh, I'll tell you, it is amazing. So, your gross estate, and I say this is the gross, just like your income tax, you have the gross amount that you've earned. And then you have the net amount. And then finally the taxable amount. Well, you got exactly the same with your estate. You got a gross estate, net estate, taxable estate. Okay. First of all, what is in your gross estate? Well, anything that you are vested in. Now, what does that mean? Well, vesting simply means that you have an enforceable legal right to have that. Okay. So, if you happen to be vested in it. Anything that's even contingent. In other words, there might be some conditions before you can grab that money. That's in your estate. Also, any real or personal property. Well, real estate, you understand. Real property is stuff that can't be moved, like your house, for example. Can't be moved. The land can't be moved. Personal, anything that can be moved. Wow, okay. So anything that is movable, basically, in there. Yeah, they don't stop at that. Anything that's tangible. Now, what the heck is tangible? Tangible are things like your automobile, your boat, equipment that you have, your furniture, collections. Say you have a stamp collection, coin collection, art collection, whatever you have. All that is part of the tangible property. Also intangible. What the heck is intangible? Anything that would represent a value. For example, you got your bank passbook. That represents a value. The stock market, you've got some stock certificates. That represents a value. Your life insurance policy represents a value. Well, it's part of your estate, believe it or not. Anything that is held jointly. Well, I thought that everything would go to the partner because it's a joint account. Yes, but not according to the federal government. It's part of your estate. What else? Anything that's held as part of your business, for example. So, All that is all federal part of the estate. Now, the estate tax, which also is known as the death tax, and it should be, that's a cash cow for our state, for Massachusetts. Most states don't have an estate tax. Massachusetts does, and it's one of the worst. So, what are the exemptions from all those things that are supposedly included in that estate? Well, there are some exemptions, and there's a sliding scale of exemptions that will come into play, basically. This is not like probate now, not like probate. This is your estate. And this is calculated by those vampires at the IRS as part of your estate. Okay, nothing to do with probate. We're going to talk about probate later. So, that is the definition of the gross estate. And in Massachusetts, it's $1 million. Boy, that's a lot of money, $1 million. You never thought, I'll never make $1 million. Well, let's take me, for example. My house is probably now worth, maybe $600,000 plus. That's all part of my estate. So it doesn't leave very much, $400,000 left of all the other things that we might have as personal property, whatever, real estate, all that other stuff. The house is worth $600,000. And regardless of how much you paid for that, I don't care what it is, whether it's a collection, whatever. It's not what you paid. That's the value is. It's the present day reasonable value. Present day, the day you die. That is the value. Okay. Well, if you're married, you can give it to your wife. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But what happens when she dies? Can she then take your million and her million, count them together? No, she can't. Hers now will be everything that you gave her, which may be over $1 million or maybe $1 million, plus the $1 million that she has, and now estate tax is going to hit her. How much is the estate tax? It's on a sliding scale, everywhere from 4% to 16%. 4 to 16. So, when you're talking $1 million, that's a lot of money. And let's say that you maybe $1,050,000. You get taxed on the entire $1,050,000, not just the $50,000, not just over and above that $1 million. It's that $1 million too that gets hit, plus that $50,000. They're very, very cagey, these people from the finance offices. So, first of all, like I said, it is what that value is on the day you die. Okay. Are there ways that we can reduce that? What can we do to get that down a little bit? Well, there are several ways. Well, number one, you can spend it. I suppose that's probably the easiest way. Spend the damn stuff. You earned it. Why not? Okay, that's number one. Number two, you can gift. You can give gifts. You can give gifts to your children. Now it's up to $15,000 a year. So if I give $15,000 a year, my wife gives $15,000 a year, that's $30,000 to each of the kids, for example. That's a good chunk of money. So that's another way of reducing your estate. Number three, you can do what I have. I have a revocable living trust. And within that trust, there is what they call a credit shelter trust. Now, what the heck is that? Well, just like the shelter, you're sheltering a certain amount of money. So what happens with a credit shelter trust is that I trusted in my trust, it said, I have 3 separate divisions to that trust. The first division, and all of them are going to go into the trust. But my wife is the trustee. She is the trustee of that trust. And so she, or even there is an alternative trustee as well, and they can determine, based on the wording of the trust, that the money is supposed to be given as needed, first to my spouse and then to the children. It's spelled out in the trust, but I don't own the trust. So that shelters a little bit of that money. So the first part of that trust then goes into that trust and goes to my wife. Not really, to the trust that my wife is a trustee in. The second part goes directly to my wife. That's the spousal deduction. So that's another close to $1 million, okay? And number 3, that will be what they call a remainder trust. That's the amount they set aside then to be paying off what's left of the estate tax. So that's divided into 3 separate trusts. Now my wife can take $2 million instead of the $1 million, basically, that she can only take for herself. So it saves tax on $1 million. Not bad, not bad. So that's the credit shelter trust. The other thing you can do, and I'm sure that those of you who have gone to college have heard about it, and maybe even now high schools are asking, they ask for charitable gifts. And there are several ways that you can charitably give money to the college or wherever. One is by just giving an outright gift of stock. And let's say that I've had this stock for a while. It's had a large capital gains over the years. And I'm going to have to pay on that capital gains. Well, what I can do is to now deed that over to the college. Okay? And then the college, you can then repurchase that same stock from the college. And now the cost basis of that stock is a different year now. Now it's not something that you've had for years. Now you just bought it. Much different cost basis. Much more favorable cost basis as far as estate tax goes. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is what they call a qualified charitable distribution. And there are a couple of ways that you can do it. You can do it by using a gift annuity, so that you give the annuity, you get the income from that annuity while you're alive, but then when you die, the annuity goes to the charity. The other one is a charitable lead trust, where the charity will get the income only, and eventually, when you die, your heirs get the principal. So those are 2 ways that you can reduce your estate amount. So all those different ways of reducing your estate. Okay, why did I spend so much time on that? Well, I know it doesn't pertain to a lot of you, but it did pertain to me, so I wanted to make this comprehensive, so that's part of it. Okay, what's the next thing? Next thing, everybody should have a will. Unfortunately, not everybody does, and it's such a simple thing. You can download the damn forms. You need to determine who is going to be the beneficiary of whatever you have in your estate. And you can spell it out. This daughter's going to get the sofa, the chair, whatever. You can spell it out in there as much as you want. Also in that will, if you want to give stuff to your grandchildren, for example, and yet they're too young to really they're under 18, so they can't really accept that. They need to have somebody who's going to be the trustee to give them the money, and then when they turn 18, they can get it. So you can add into that will a testamentary trust right in there. Also, don't forget about all of the digital assets that you have. Everybody's online now. You bank online, you pay online, you do everything online. There are multiple passwords that you use. What happens when you die? Make sure you keep that list updated. Make sure it's in a place where people can get to it upon passing away. And make sure that they know that they have to cancel these things. So that digital estate is part of the will as well. Okay. A will is a legal document, so it needs your signature, 2 witnesses, and a notary. All of the legal stuff needs that. 2 witnesses and a notarized copy. Okay. So, at least the will it spells out what you want to do. Unfortunately, that will goes to the damn probate court. Why? Why? Because probate has to approve it as written, and they have to approve the executor of the will. As soon as it gets to probate, time, and it takes maybe 6 to 8 months, time, money, costs money. Probate's not cheap. Number 3, it is public property. In other words, anybody can read it. So try whenever you can to avoid probate. And we're going to talk a little further about probate as well. Okay. So, if you die without a will, you die intestate. That means that probate court, family and probate court, is now going to appoint an executor for that will. So all of a sudden, you can see that opens up a lot of arguments. And believe me, I see a lot of arguments from families that have gotten together and have no problems, basically, while you're alive. But as soon as you die, all of a sudden, oh, he promised me that. No, he promised me that. Oh, I tell you, there's a lot of arguments, a lot. So have a will and spell out everything. Now you hear a lot about these revocable living trusts. Well, what the heck is a revocable living trust? And I'm going to tell you. Let me put all this stuff about the estates out of the way. All this garbage about your estate, if you don't plan your estate. Okay. And revocable living trust. What is a revocable living trust? Well, it is also a legal binding document as well. And let me get the right, here it is. Okay. That legal binding document goes much further than the will. The big advantage to having this revocable living trust, the biggest advantage is that it avoids probate. Unfortunately, it doesn't avoid estate tax, but it avoids probate. Okay. So, when you have a revocable living trust, and you can download the forms, you don't need a lawyer, you can download the forms, and all you have to do is to follow the instructions on it. You have total control. You're the trustee in that trust. You have total control as to when this becomes effective and to whom you're going to give your estate. you can appoint a successor trustee after yourself. That's fine. In fact, you should. You should. You avoid probate, as I say. You got to make sure, however, that all your estate, as much as you can, gets given to the trust. So that, for example, all my life insurance is part of the trust. I'm no longer the owner. The trust is the owner. And so you want to give as much as possible to the trust. So you got to fund that entire trust. So the way you do it then is to just legal document and give it into the trust. Okay. So you avoid a lot of the costs when you have a revocable living trust. What does that word revocable mean? That means you still have control and it's not effective until you die. Now, you can make it irrevocable. You got to be a millionaire to make it irrevocable, though, because you totally lose control. The biggest advantage to the irrevocable trust is that it no longer is part of your estate. And so it no longer is subject to the estate tax. That's the biggest advantage to having it irrevocable. But once it's irrevocable, you can't change it. It's not yours anymore. Okay, so I want you to understand that. But I think that everyone who has a reasonable estate, now you don't have to have $1 million, but a reasonable estate, I think you should get the forms, download the forms, make a revocable living trust. It's very easy to do. And you can do it in Massachusetts. Okay. Enough said about that. Revocable living trust. Let me go through this junk. This is revocable versus irrevocable. Okay. Let's go on. I had mentioned a few minutes before about probate. What is probate, first of all? Well, probate itself, let me get the correct numbers here. Okay. Probate is basically a process in a legal court that concludes all of the legal and financial matters after death. Now, the probate court itself is part of family and probate court. So it deals with a lot of family issues, divorces, settlement, all this other stuff as well. So it's a very, very busy court. And basically probate, like I said, if you just have a will, they have to certify that that will is legally valid and the executor is authorized to administer that estate. Okay. If you don't have a will, they will appoint an administrator. And first of all, they'll assure that all of the debts are paid. They will assure the taxes are paid, all of the valid claims that are against that estate, and then give what the remainder is to the beneficiaries. So, like I said, there are a number of issues that are bad about probate court. Number one, the time it takes, 8 months, a year. The cost, 6 to 10% of the estate. It's a public record. Anybody can read it. There are always family disputes that delay things. So, how do you bypass probate? Well, remember, this is different than bypassing the estate tax. You want to bypass probate, life insurance that has beneficiaries. Anything that has a beneficiary will bypass probate. An annuity, for my annuities, for example, they go to the trust, so they bypass probate because there's a beneficiary on them as well. All of the bank accounts are joint, go directly to my wife. Okay, all these things you can do to bypass probate. Now, probate is not a simple process. First of all, if you happen to be the executor of somebody's will, and it has to go to probate, first you have to request a probate appointment, which means all these things have to be filled out, roughly 15 pages, to request a probate appointment. Remember, this is with a will now, with a will. You need to bring with you all of the documents that are requested. And there is a whole series of documents that you have to bring, even though you still have a will. You have to bring all these to the probate court. That, I've got it right here. All the things you need to bring with you. So it's very simple. I just have to read them off and make a copy, bring them with you. But you have to do it. Okay. After that, the court will make sure you send legal notice to all the heirs, the creditors, the beneficiaries. Then they have to get responses from all the people. Then you can request a letter of authority. Then the probate court may approve then the will, the validity. Okay? And then they will pay the taxes, pay the debts, and then you begin the distribution process. Oh, I'll tell you, it's a prolonged process, and it's something, I would try as much as possible to avoid probate. Okay. Next issue. We want to create a power of attorney. Now, power of attorney, there are many different types of powers of attorney. This is a financial power of attorney. And you should do this early on. Don't wait till the last minute. A medical power of attorney you may want to put off a little bit, but that's a power of attorney too. Again, this one in Massachusetts is not a legal document. So all you need for this power of attorney is you need a witness signature, your signature, and the signature of the person who is going to be the executor of that. Okay, so they will do all of the legal and financial matters. That is the absolute durable power of attorney. It's durable, remember, because it can be changed at any time, and you still have that control. So you need to get that done early on. Someone you can trust with your financial and legal questions. So those are the things that you need to do early: the will, durable power of attorney, and the trust, durable trust. Okay, that is part number 1. This is Dr. C. We're going to go on to part number 2. Nice. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.